Hi everyone, we'll begin in just 1 minute. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for the webinar, Debunking Salesforce Myths. A little housekeeping before we begin. If at any point you have any questions about the content of this webinar or general support issues on displaying or hearing the presentation, please use the Q&A box on the left side of your screen. Please also note that we will have some time for Q&A at the end of the webinar. So do send in any questions that you have and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So let's get started. Today's speaker is Roxana Resnick, Senior Salesforce Consultant from SOLTECH. Roxana has been working with Salesforce for over 10 years. She is Salesforce certified and has helped many of our clients improve efficiency through Salesforce. So I will pass it now over to you, Roxana.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. So let's start with a few facts about me before we get started. I did start using Salesforce as an end user. Like many, I was not hired as an admin. I did see a need to improve my company's Salesforce at the time because of everyday pain points I was experiencing as well as others in other departments. I took the initiative at that point to go ahead and start asking others what their pain points were and started devising a plan of how to create small fixes for the system. And it just snowballed from there. So at the time, everyone in our system was considered a Salesforce admin. So that was a big no-no for our security and permission. So that was one of the first things that I went ahead and fixed, which is very, very bad practice. So we'll talk about some of that in this webinar. Before we begin, now that you guys have learned a little bit about me, we want to go ahead and learn a little bit about you. So we're going to take a poll today. We want you to tell us about your current use of Salesforce. We have 3 categories here. 1, you're still using Salesforce today. 2, I'm thinking about switching to Salesforce. Or 3, I'm curious and I want to learn more. So we'll give everyone a moment to make their selection and then we'll be back momentarily. All right, so it looks like the majority of everyone here is currently using Salesforce today, which is wonderful. We'll go ahead and talk about how to maximize your business's potential. It's wonderful that everyone is using it today and we're not thinking about switching to Salesforce or maybe dumping it. So let's begin by talking about the inspiration and the agenda for this webinar. So SOLTECH has been helping organizations with custom technology solutions for over 20 years. And in that time, we've seen a lot of bad practices and a lot of misconceptions. And it's not just been with Salesforce. We've seen it across the board with several different technologies. In this webinar, we're going to go ahead and cover a few of the common myths and how Salesforce can maximize your business's potential and ways you can customize Salesforce for your business needs. So we're going to begin with debunking some Salesforce myths. So over the years, we've worked with many different types of business models, each one of those models being different than the last. Salesforce is not a one-size-fits-all solution, contrary to what everyone here might think. Understanding Salesforce and what you can do with it is going to be your first stop to implementing a very successful platform. Below, we're going to talk about the 3 most common myths we've encountered when talking to businesses about their Salesforce. One being, Salesforce is used as a sales tool only. Salesforce will improve my business right out of the box. And third, an internal Salesforce team is required in order to maintain your Salesforce. So let's start with myth 1. Salesforce is used just for sales. This is incorrect. The reality is, even with sales being in Salesforce's name, Salesforce actually does way more than just sales. Salesforce offers several different clouds that can benefit a wide range of industries. So let's talk about what a Salesforce cloud is. I know that seems a little confusing. We'll go ahead and cover some of the top 6 that Salesforce offers. I do want to let you guys know there are many more than just these 6. We just have time to cover these ones. If you are curious and want to know about more of these Salesforce clouds, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to talk to you about those. The first one we're going to talk about is Sales Cloud. Sales Cloud is a customer relationship management platform. It's designed to support your sales, marketing, customer support in both your B2B and B2C markets. We also have Service Cloud. The Service Cloud includes case management, customer access across all channels, integration with legacy data systems, pre-built integration apps, supporting ticketing. They also do knowledge base and routing and escalation rules, as well as queue management. We have Marketing Cloud. Marketing Cloud is going to be a little bit different. Even with small businesses, using a marketing automation tool like the Marketing Cloud will help bring in new customers. They'll also help nurture your existing ones without an army of marketers behind the scenes. So Marketing Cloud allows you to plan, personalize, and optimize the customer journey. You get to know your customers better. You can measure your results so you can maximize your marketing budget with Email Marketing Cloud. We also have Community Cloud. Community Cloud provides Salesforce customers with the ability to create online web properties for external collaboration, customer service, channel sales, and other custom portals inside of Salesforce. So as you see, Community Cloud here has a little bracket that says it's including Chatter. So Community Cloud combines functions from the former Salesforce customer service and partner portals with some additional features like Chatter. And we'll talk about Chatter and what it's capable of doing in a little bit further in this webinar. We also have Health Cloud. Health Cloud is a cloud-based patient relationship management solution. It builds on strengths of the already existing Salesforce platform. It helps providers build stronger one-on-one relationships and make smarter care decisions. It also helps connect your patients anywhere with any device. And lastly, we have Nonprofit Cloud. Nonprofit Cloud provides solutions across program management, fundraising, and engagement by combining Salesforce products with industry-leading products. And even the power of Salesforce's ecosystem helps address partners on their day-to-day challenges. So let's talk about Service Cloud for a second. So Service Cloud, what exactly is that? We kind of gave you like a generalization of that, but let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit more. Service Cloud allows users to automate service processes. We can streamline workflow rules. We can also help find helpful articles and topics to clients' concerns or maybe some of their questions. The Service Cloud even helps connect clients to experts to get their questions answered in real time. thus giving your client the best possible client experience. That's extremely important for client retention. We're also going to talk about another one that SOLTECH sees a lot of, which is going to be the Salesforce Health Cloud. Now, what's the difference between the Service Cloud and the Health Cloud? We just learned that the Service Cloud allows users to automate service processes, we can streamline workflow rules, and find helpful articles and topics to clients' questions and concerns. But what the Health Cloud does, it provides a way to transform how healthcare providers and payers acquire and manage their patients' data. This powerful patient management software gives a comprehensive, unified view of patients to care providers and payers. It also helps anticipate patients and member needs. So now that we've learned about some of the ones that SOLTECH has seen a lot, we'll go into our second myth here, and that Salesforce will improve my business needs right out of the box, meaning there's not going to be any customization, it's just a plug and play. The reality is Salesforce is a very, very powerful business tool, but it still needs some enhancements to get you off the ground and running smoothly. Salesforce, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There does need to be some TLC that you give it. One of the questions that I hear a lot is, what does Salesforce provide for me right outside of the box? If it's not a true plug and play, what do I get? And so in the next slide, we've compiled some of these standard features and what Salesforce does give you out of the box. So what exactly does Salesforce out of the box mean? Salesforce out of the box means that they give you applications by using buttons and clicks without any code necessary. So an example of that would be like workflow rules, a process builder, reports and dashboards. As you see, we've listed 5 here for you, and we'll go over each one of these. Salesforce provides several standard objects and fields. So this is going to be the first one we're going to talk about. Some of those standard objects and features are going to be your accounts, contacts, opportunities, cases, leads, campaigns, and a handful of standard profiles. Now, standard profiles are going to be something that you're going to want to understand because this is going to help set up your security inside of your Salesforce org. We also have approval processes. Approval processes are standard, but this feature does need to be implemented. Salesforce doesn't know what processes need to be created for your business, but it does allow you the ability to create these processes. We have reports and dashboards. Salesforce enables reporting for its standard objects, but for any custom objects that are created, you'll need to turn on the reporting feature. Forecast and quota attainment. Forecast is enabled, but again, you'll need to set this feature up. Forecasting is a very powerful sales tool that can leverage your sales team's opportunities. It'll help you see how your deals are coming along, where they're sitting within your pipeline, and if your team's meeting their quotas, or maybe they need an extra push to help attain those. And then we also have workflow rules and process builder. So workflow rules and the process builder are standard features, much like the approval process and the forecasting tool that we just went over. They do need to be set up and built based upon your business criteria. So these aren't features that are automatically switched on when you purchase. These are things that you're going to have to define based upon your business and your industry. So let's talk a little bit about what workflow rules do versus what the process builder does, and how you can use these to maximize your business needs. So how to utilize your Salesforce. It sounds like a lot of you are already currently using Salesforce. Thank you so much for those responses again. Here's a slide that you're going to probably be more interested in. We have here 3 ways to help automate your business's process. So the first one we have is a workflow rule. A workflow rule is the main container for a set of workflow instructions. It's going to be the easiest tool to use to utilize your Salesforce. We do have Process Builder. It does use custom and standard objects. Same thing like the workflow rule. It's going to allow you to relate action to automate your business processes without a single line of code. And then we have, lastly, Apex code. Now, this is not something that's given out of the box, but we do want to touch upon it because I think that it is important for you to know and be well informed of what Salesforce has to offer. Apex code is a proprietary language developed by Salesforce, and it's typically used by Salesforce developers. So it's definitely not something that's just a click solution. It's going to be more of an advanced tool to use. In the next slides, we'll go ahead and break down each one of these tools for you so that way you can determine which one's going to be right for your business needs. So the first one we're going to talk about is the easiest one. That one is going to be our workflow rules. So as you see, workflow rules offer 4 action items: field update, email alerts. It can provide you with new tasks or a new outbound message. But what exactly is a workflow rule? Well, a workflow rule is business logic which automates certain actions based on very specific criteria. If the criteria equals true, then the actions that you've set up will get executed. But if those actions come back as false, your record will get saved and none of these actions will get executed. So don't worry about, well, if it's wrong or if it's false, what happens? Nothing happens. The system just moves on to the next thing. So the next example we're going to give you is, let's say your sales team has an opportunity that they have to move from 25% to a 75% probability of closing. Well, we want to leverage our workflow rule to then send an email alert to the manager of that opportunity owner because they need to be alerted that a deal is moving through the pipeline. Workflow rule allows you to build that capability and send an email alert out without using any line of code, thus alerting your manager without any additional clicks for your end user. No coming out of your Salesforce system and into whatever email system you're using like Outlook or Gmail and sending emails. This all does everything in one simple action just by changing 25% probability to 75% probability. The next we're going to talk about is Process Builder. Process Builder is more that moderate tool. Process Builder is going to be that same point-and-click tool that lets you easily automate if-then business processes. But what it does, in addition to workflow rules, it also lets you see a graphical representation of your process as you build it. So that's one of the bigger differences. Another one here is, as you can see, workflow rule gives you those field update, email alert, new task, and new outbound messaging actions. But Process Builder gives you even more. So Process Builder goes into that moderate bucket because of that. So while Workflow has those similar features, we can set up criteria to execute actions, but the Process Builder will even allow you to create additional records, maybe update related records that didn't start this process. So Process Builder is going to be a great tool for you to utilize if you have multiple actions within one single action on that record. So let's go ahead and give you an example of that. Maybe that'll help break some of this down for you. So we'll use that same 75% probability opportunity that we just spoke about. Let's say that that opportunity has now moved to a 90% probability of closing, and your opportunity has a dollar amount over $5,000. The Process Builder can then be created so that when the opportunity is updated from 75% to 90% at save, that opportunity then will enter into a defined internal approval process without any additional clicks to that end user. So that same opportunity with workflow rule was alerted to that person's manager. Now it's moved even further in your pipeline, and now it's going to automatically generate into an approval process. So that way, you guys can make sure that you're getting the correct products. You guys have all the same information that's needed for whether that's shipping out, whether that's invoicing, or even retention. So now we're going to talk about Apex code. Now I know that this is not something that's out of the box. This is going to be something that's a little bit more advanced, but again, we do want to educate you guys on what's going to be the best way to utilize your Salesforce. I know that we talked about out-of-the-box features, but we do want to equip you with some additional knowledge. So what exactly is Apex code? We know that it is very difficult. It's used by Salesforce developers, It is a proprietary language developed by Salesforce, and Salesforce's official definition is Apex is a strongly typed, object-oriented programming language that allows developers to execute the flow and transaction control statements on the Force.com platform server in conjunction with calls to the Force.com API. So as you can hear, that sounds very advanced. It is. Now, what does Apex code give me that Process Builder and Workflow does not? So let's talk about that same opportunity that went from 25% to 75% to 90%. That same opportunity has now been approved and is ready to be closed at 100%. Code will allow you to create new records, whether that's associated to the opportunity, the account, and even possibly the contact listed, or it can also update and maybe create records that are not associated to that. So Apex code allows the system to perform many actions related or not to the record that triggered this process. So now that we've covered how businesses can leverage the out-of-the-box functionality and we've given you some knowledge of how to do it outside of the box, we'll talk about how Salesforce can maximize your business's potential. So let's talk about how we can do that. There's several different ways that Salesforce allows you to maximize your business's potential. We can talk about creating custom fields, and custom fields is something that a Salesforce administrator can define. They're used for standard objects as well as custom objects within your organization. Custom fields will help you gather data points to your specific business or industry needs. You can create and customize page layouts. Page layouts are a great way to control the layout of an object. It'll define which fields your user can view and edit while entering data into your Salesforce. Validation rules are another great way to maximize your business's potential. Validation rules verify that the data that's entered into Salesforce meets the standards you have specified before a user can save the record. So a validation rule can contain a formula or an expression that evaluates the data in not just one field, but many fields, and can then return a true or false statement, allowing your user to either save the record or go back and fix and correct the data. Workflows and Process Builder. Workflow rules and Process Builder, as we've already learned, allows you to set certain criteria on records to then trigger action items at creation or when the record is saved. So it's not just when the record has been edited, but we can also create these workflow rules and process actions upon creation of a record. Chatter. Now we did speak a little bit to this when we talked about that community cloud. Chatter is a standard out-of-the-box tool. It is not just with Community Cloud, it is with every cloud that is offered. Chatter is a communication tool for your business. It leverages ways to drive productivity, ways to connect, engage, and collaborate with your end users internally. All of this is done in real time. The benefit to this is that, say you have a client that has a question that you may not know the answer to, and you need to raise that question to your manager. Well, without putting that client on hold, you can ask your manager through Chatter what that question is and getting an answer in real time without transferring the client and making them feel like it's just another one of those services that are outsourced. We can create custom objects. Custom objects are ways that you can create and store information that's very specific to your company and to your industry. So they're always going to be different. Not every single Salesforce org is going to have the same custom object. We have custom report types. Custom report types, in my opinion, is going to be the most underused custom option Salesforce has to offer. So it's one of those things where we've come into play where we've seen an issue trying to get data from several different objects within Salesforce, and instead of making new formula fields and creating all these custom page layouts and maybe another custom object to capture this data point, the very simple solution was creating a custom report type. And lastly, we have custom profiles, roles, and permission sets. These are going to be extremely important for you to understand and utilize because This allows you to create bumpers for your users for what they can see and what they cannot see. So if you have important information that's stored inside of your Salesforce that you don't want everyone to see, this is where you would want to utilize those features and set up bumpers in place. So now that we've talked about how we can utilize Salesforce and how we can maximize my business's potential, let's give you guys a great example of that. So we're going to pretend to create a custom object. So let's just pretend to create a custom object and we'll call it warranty. So we have seen in the past where people need to know whether they are inside of their warranty or outside of that warranty. Well, that's not something that Salesforce captures outside of the box. So now we're going to customize it to maximize your business's potential. So we're first going to create this custom object. So once we've created this custom object, what do? Well, we're going to need to provision that custom object to the group or to maybe a couple of individuals that need to see this information. How would you do that? Well, you provision to profiles or you provision through permission sets. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So what exactly is a permission set? So the permission set is going to be a set of permissions that's created if you only want to expose data to certain users. And you don't want to expose that to maybe the entire organization or all of the people that are listed on a specific profile. The best practice here is to always give the bare minimum access needed and then open up those parameters by permission sets. So that way you can make sure that not everyone is seeing everything inside of your organization. Now, once you have provisioned your new custom object, what else can you do? Well, we want to create some custom fields. So Salesforce offers several different data points to choose from. They allow you to customize your org, again, to your business needs. Some examples of these data points for your custom fields are going to be lookup fields. These fields reference other objects' data points. You can create formula fields. They also have pick list fields, and they also have multiple pick list fields. Now, the cool thing about pick list values and fields is that pick list can have additional functionality, and that's called dependencies. Dependencies is where you allow your user to select certain values, and then depending on the value selected, a second set of values shows up. This will help keep your data clean and in sync, also setting up bumpers to know what this user can and cannot put into your Salesforce. So once we've created some custom fields, the next thing we want to do is maybe update or create a new page layout. The cool thing about page layouts is that you can have multiple page layouts to either one standard object or to a custom object. You can have 4, you can have 3, or you can just have a simple 1 because you don't need a lot of parameters or bumpers like warranty cards maybe. So once you've created multiple page layouts or single page layouts, again, you want to assign those to your different profiles or your people. This can be done through profiles or permission sets that we just spoke about. It is best practice, though, that if you do have fields or business processes that want to be exposed to certain groups, you do want to go ahead and set up multiple page layouts. So after we've created a page layout, what's the next thing that we should do? Well, we think that you should add some validation rules. Validation rules allows you to do just that, validate your data. This ensures your organization is getting the cleanest data possible. It also gives you the power to set up what should and should not be put into Salesforce. So validation rules doesn't just give you the clean stuff, it can sometimes help you get rid of some of that bad stuff as well. Workflow rules and process builder, we've touched upon this a little bit, so you guys should be well equipped with some knowledge here. Workflows and process builders are, again, another great way to automate actions in Salesforce, whether it's creating the new task when an opportunity hits 100%, or setting that email to the manager. We can also set up email alerts when a contact record hasn't been touched in the last 30 days. So process builders and workflows don't work just with opportunities. They work with every standard and custom object that you guys have inside of your Salesforce org. So once we've created our processes and our workflows, what do we want to do? Well, documentation. So this is one of the things that we see time and time again that's overlooked, and it makes it extremely difficult when you guys get to a point of wanting to expand your Salesforce org. Documentation is extremely important. It helps your end users train and enter in data with a better understanding of what is needed or maybe what is wanted from them. It also helps your business internally understand your processes, especially if you want to build upon those for future use. So now that we have our documentation, what comes next? Reporting and dashboards. This is a great way to create visual representation of the data in your organization. Some businesses use dashboards to help display their annual goals or maybe where their company stands. Another great use of reporting is to help identify records they may not have correct data. So let's say we've added our validation rules, we have our workflow rules and process builders in place, but our business has kind of grown, and we need to see what was existing and what do we need to clean up. Reporting is a great way to capture what should be cleaned up as well. It's not just for finding out what's good, but it's also a great way of finding out what's bad. Now let's talk about myth 3. An internal Salesforce team is required. While having an internal Salesforce team is ideal, it's not always in the budget, and we understand that. It's also important to remember that Salesforce allows businesses to automate processes. Again, we talked about leveraging workflow rules, approval processes, and even the process builder. An internal Salesforce team can help with those automations and keep you up to date as your business grows and evolves. But there are other ways and more cost-efficient ways to keep your Salesforce clean. One of those is consulting firms. Those are a great way to outsource and keep within your business's budget. Now, I do want to speak to Salesforce and Haggai International. Haggai International is one of SOLTECH's clients, and they are a global nonprofit organization. Because they are a nonprofit organization, they didn't have a large budget. After consulting with SOLTECH, they found that Salesforce was going to be the ideal choice to serve as their central hub for all their data and a tool that they can use to facilitate communication and coordination with all of their internal alumni and also external leaders around the world. So because Haggai, again, is that nonprofit, they didn't have that large budget, they do not have an internal Salesforce team on staff. So what SOLTECH and Haggai did was they created an ongoing support order, so when they need to make updates to their Salesforce org, they just notify SOLTECH, and we go ahead and create the ticket and make the updates for them. SOLTECH has helped Haggai move from legacy systems into their Salesforce org. We've helped them capture business processes, old and new. We've also helped scope out some of those automations and found training opportunities internally so they could better streamline their data input. Because we helped Haggai with their design and implementation and was successful to the Salesforce org, SOLTECH does have a very intimate understanding of their Salesforce as well as their business needs and processes. This also helps speed up maybe some of their day-to-days so they can focus on what they need to and how to grow their business while letting us do the heavy lifting. So now that we've learned a little bit of how to maximize our business, what we can do to potentially get it off the ground and running, or maybe even streamline some things that are already existing, let's talk about some of the frequently asked questions that we get here at SOLTECH. One of the first things that I hear is, all right, so I've already purchased my Salesforce. What do I do? We think that you should define your business processes. Once you know your business's needs, you can then determine which cloud is right for you. This will help with your automation setup. This will help with maybe understanding the big picture. Another question that we hear a lot of is, I have a new Salesforce org. How do I help define those business processes? I don't know where to start. So we think that it's best for you maybe to reach out to several consulting firms if you're not sure about your business processes or how to capture those. Make sure that you get a few quotes and compare some of those pricing points. We want to make sure that you are well informed and that you are picking the correct consulting firm for your solution. Another one that we've heard a lot is, well, we already have an existing Salesforce org. How do we start this cleanup process? We don't even know where to begin. It's okay. We tell you to look at what you already have in place. We want to determine if those processes maybe still fit your business need. Have you outgrown those? Or do they just simply not work at all and they never have? If they don't, it's okay to start from the beginning, but it's very important for you to maybe open up and look underneath the hood of your Salesforce and understand what's currently there. The good news is that SOLTECH does offer free evaluations for businesses either thinking about purchasing Salesforce, or for it looks like the majority of you already have Salesforce. So the good news is it doesn't matter if you're thinking about it or you're wanting to dump it or you're maybe trying to streamline your process a little bit better. We offer free evaluation for whoever you are, of whatever you're trying to service.
Thank you, Roxana. All right, let's move into the Q&A portion of the webinar. We've received quite a few questions. Our first question is, how is Salesforce different from other CRMs?
That is an excellent question. I will let you know that I'm probably a little bit partial to Salesforce just because I've been using Salesforce for over 10 years and I'm certified. So I might be a little biased. But I do find that Salesforce has been proven to be an industry leader time and time again. They tend to keep up with the latest trends. They're constantly purchasing and acquiring some of these other businesses like Tableau, Pardot, making it a lot easier for you guys to integrate those into your Salesforce organizations without having to get developers involved. They just make it very relatively easy to customize based on your business's needs. So it's not a rocket science.
Great. We have another question that came in regarding cost and licenses. Are there any extra add-on costs that could occur beyond user licenses?
That is an excellent question as well. And the answer is yes. It really depends on what your business needs are. Just for the base of Salesforce, you're just paying for those licenses. But let's say that you want to have an additional community cloud. That is an additional cloud on top of what you already have. So those are going to be additional costs. So you have your base licensing, and then anything additional would come after that. I would highly recommend that you explore those options before you purchase, or maybe talking with a consulting firm to get a better understanding to liaison, maybe for some pricing points as well.
Great. And we have time for one last question. Is there any way to let people outside my organization interact with my Salesforce data?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. So we did kind of cover that community cloud. It does allow you to collaborate with your clients as well as your internal users. So there absolutely is a way for that. Unfortunately, it is an additional cost. So that's something that, again, I would want you guys to make sure that you are defining your business processes, understanding your business needs, and kind of what overall your end goal is. But absolutely, there is a way to do that, but it does mean that they need their own license.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you joined late or perhaps missed portions of the webinar, we will be sending out a recording in a few days so that you can watch the webinar again on demand. Thank you again for joining, and have a wonderful day.